Okay, we are now live on YouTube, so pay attention for that.
Dale. Oh, Kelsang Wangmo joined. Okay.
Yeah, Geshe is here. Hi, Geshe. Nice to see you. We are happy to be with you here. You are now co-host.
I don't have a sound yet.
I can hear you.
Listen.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
okay.
Yes. Great. Okay. All right. Shall we start or wait a little longer?
I think that we can start. So people that
Okay.
say that maybe they will be on YouTube or they will
Okay.
go inside later a little bit.
Great. All right. So let's start with the meditation. Just a sec. I also need a moment. Oops. Just one more second. Okay. All right. So we start as usual. We start with some breathing meditation. So be sure you're comfortable. And then just stay in the present with the breath. And then to be inspired, but also to identify the object of refuge. visualize that all the enlightened qualities, all the qualities you can attain, appear in the form of Bodhicitta Muni in the space in front of you. With the Buddha appearing as a fully ordained monk, seated cross-legged in a full lotus posture, on top of a lotus, a sun and a moon disk, which symbolizes renunciation, wisdom, and compassion. His right hand touches the earth, and his left hand rests in his lap in the meditation gesture while holding a begging bowl. Buddha's face is radiant and inspiring. And his smiling, compassionate gaze is directed at you and simultaneously at all other sentient beings who are surrounding you. So think that all around you are sentient beings, quietly seated, while experiencing all sorts of sufferings, physical and mental. Constantly creating the causes for more problems, more unwanted experiences in the future. Despite their instinctive wish to be free from suffering and to experience peace and happiness. And then generate affectionate love towards all sentient beings. A feeling of closeness and affection. Understanding that all their faults, shortcomings, their afflictions and so forth are not in the nature of their mind. And that underneath all their limitations, they have the potential to become just like the Buddha. The potential to awaken. And then based on that feeling of closeness, of considering sentient beings lovable, especially focus on everything that's wrong in their lives, in the form of physical pain, constantly having to endure unwanted experiences, feeling lonely, unloved, being controlled by attachment, hatred, and so forth. And generate great compassion, that is the sincere aspiration for them to be completely free from all sufferings, and most importantly, from the causes of their sufferings. While also aspiring towards being able to help them to overcome all these unwanted experiences and their causes. In other words, generate an affectionate mind that wishes to be able to protect all sentient beings from their suffering or their dissatisfactory experiences and the causes of these experiences. And then allow for that aspiration to grow stronger, to transform into a kind of inner determination in the form of the special altruistic attitude that doesn't just aspire, but is determined to do whatever is necessary, and however long it may take, to help sentient beings overcome their sufferings and their causes. Try to really feel that from the depth of your heart. That inner strength and courage. And then let's remember that realistically, it's only possible to be most effective in that endeavor to benefit sentient beings in the way you just described. If we first become enlightened ourselves, let's generate the mind of enlightenment, Bodhicitta, that aspires for the benefit of each and every sentient being to attain the enlightened or awakened state of a Buddha. I think that it's also with that motivation, with that mind as the motivating force, I will continue to study the 7-point mind training. And so, while holding on to the visualization of the Buddha and all sentient beings, and without letting go of Bodhicitta, let's recite the prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, great. Well, first of all, one thing I want to start with is to dedicate this class, especially to, unfortunately, the late Tali Lubin, who passed away. If you remember, I dedicated towards her recovery for many, many months. Unfortunately, I failed to do it, which I now regret after October 7th, because I focused my dedication more on the current conflict. But anyway, I've heard that she passed away in the most inspiring way, totally accepting of what lies ahead, saying her goodbyes. And it's from what I heard from Gila, it was truly inspiring. So very good example for all of us. And although many of us may wish to maybe just die in their sleeps, but of course, if we are sick before we pass away, and we know death nears, it's a very good opportunity to prepare well. And of course, we should be prepared any moment, because we just don't know, anything can happen anytime. And you don't need to live in Israel for that to be the case. I mean, it could hit all of us anytime. It could just be the wrong stone falling off the wrong building and you being in the wrong place and so forth, as we all know. But anyway, I wanted to, definitely dedicate this class in particular for her well-being, wherever she is right now. May she be full of peace and bliss and, well, happiness. Okay. Anyway, and of course there'll be a time to dedicate towards her again at the end. But let's start right away. Maybe I'll start with the questions. I can't wait. They're really good questions. I want to start with them. Well, they're actually questions by two people. So B, I never had the chance to answer B's question. Is she here? No, I don't see her today. My apologies, of course, for all the delays. Well, I was sick the week before that. Almost everyone I know, well, no, that's exaggerated, but a lot of people I know had COVID, and so did I and my mom, and I was a little sick, but I'm much better now. And then on Monday, I had a technical problem. Well, actually, a camper van knocked out a power line and the internet, and it took much longer to fix than it usually does, because it was a holiday. Anyway, so today we're able to get together. But yeah, so B asked a question quite some time ago, and I thought it was a really good question, but then I couldn't remember it and there wasn't any time, so I'll do this now. She asked, how about a situation such that your government does things you don't approve of, that your government supports actions that may harm others, and so do you accumulate negative karma? paying taxes and so forth. So I was reminded, for instance, of in Germany, the situation is such. We have a party right now. It's a right-wing populist party, and they support anti-Semitism. Well, some of their members are anti-Semitic, Islamophobic. They don't support same-sex marriage and so forth. Well, in other words, a right-wing party. And so being part of this country, I mean, is it my responsibility to protest against them? Should I, rise up, and when there are demonstrations against this party, and they do happen, should I go there as well? And if I fail to do that, if I don't spend a lot of time, because like looking at the past, I mean, right-wing government has been such an incredible, has created so much suffering in this world. I mean, coming from Germany. And so am I, in my silence, am I not supporting this, and am I not creating negative karma? And I thought about this. I thought it was a really good question. The thing is, it's really hard to tell. We live, of course, in what's called cyclic existence, and certain actions, just the fact that we exist, will, of course, mean that we accumulate a certain degree of negative karma, if you like negative actions by just being complacent. I mean, it rains all the time right now in Germany, so do I want to go to a demonstration, or just like next time or whatever? So it's like this kind of complacency, or whatever. I mean, many different, I mean, there's so much I could do, let's say. There's so many other causes, but the thing is, like, it depends on how we spend our life. I mean, if you have children, your main responsibility are looking after your children. If you have parents you have to look after, or you have a job, you need to go to work. And then also, of course, it's very important to develop our own mind, to work on transforming our mind, work on inner peace before we start working. I mean, I'm here just quoting His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who always talks about peace. World peace starts with inner peace, starts with working with our own mind, working with our negative emotions. And of course, we need to be careful to not ignore everything else around us and just be like, oh, I don't care about anything. I'm just working on my own peace, because it's also part of our practice, of course, to be concerned, to be involved. But yeah, in the end, I think as long as we practice and we do as much as we can to also recognize our limitations and know that we can't do everything. And I don't think the degree of negativity is that great. But it's good to be careful. I don't know. I don't have a clear answer to that. But yeah, again, as long as we really practice, and we practice towards, I mean, we make an effort to becoming more familiar, to familiarize ourselves with love, compassion, and so forth, and live according to these states of mind, we're making at least a good contribution. And then, of course, if they are, and Israel has shown, I mean, that was great for about a year, every Saturday. That was really inspiring. All of you going on. I remember talking to friends of mine, like, sorry, I need to go now. I'm going, it's time to leave for the protest. So that was really beautiful. Anyway, all right. So that was that question. And then Shmuel asked also a question that I want to, I've got it right here. Okay, let me think. How do I do this? Here we go. All right. Okay. Here's the question about bodhicitta. So he says, you said that self-centeredness is a type of attachment. If so, then it is not true that self-centeredness is the root of all suffering, as it is said, like it is said in the Bodhisattva Chayatara, in chapter 8, verse 129, because that is not the root delusion, because attachment is not the root delusion. All right. Okay, so it's a valid question. Isn't it contradictory? So it's basically, he's basically arguing, isn't it contradictory to say, as it says here in the Bodhisattva and Shantideva's text, that self-centeredness is the root of all suffering? Isn't that contradictory to other statements or other explanations saying that the root misperception of reality, or the root delusion, is the misapprehension of reality, grasping at inherent existence. Well, in answer to this, usually, well, root cause is actually just another way of saying main cause. So what is the main cause of all our trouble from a Buddhist point of view? Well, it's definitely certain states of mind. And of those certain states of mind, it is what are called the afflictions or the delusions. So the root delusions or the root afflictions. Now, different texts give different explanations because, well, a main cause is definitely attachment. Definitely. In some texts, actually, in some traditions, you find attachment being mentioned as one of the main causes because, well, if you look at anger and for instance, jealousy, arrogance, their root cause is definitely attachment, their main cause. So in other words, you can be without anger. That is possible. For some people that reached a certain level in their practice, anger no longer arises, but attachment is still there. But it doesn't work the other way around. It's not like you can be without attachment but have anger. It doesn't work that way. You can't be without attachment but have arrogance. No way. So attachment is actually seen as one of the root causes. If you talk about causes, so give the explanations of root causes or main causes, definitely attachment. And then attachment to the I, or to my own happiness in the form of self-centeredness, yes, definitely a root cause, a main cause. But of all the different afflictions, if you want to point at the main cause of all the main causes, even the main cause of all the main causes is definitely the root misapprehension. So it's the root of the roots. Therefore, as I said, there's a way to describe attachment, self-centeredness as a type of attachment, as a root cause. But then there's another way of saying, but the root of even that is the misapprehension of reality, and therefore mention only the misapprehension or ignorance, if you like, or the basic misapprehension of reality. Now, the question that arises, why would you say it one way sometimes and in a different way at other times? Now, I can only guess here, but to hear that attachment and this particular form of attachment, self-centeredness, which is an exaggerated attachment, or I don't need to say exaggerated because attachment is always exaggerated. So attachment to the self and to my own happiness, which describes self-centeredness. Why is that mentioned in some cases? Well, because we can do something right now, right here. The root misperception, ignorance, it's difficult to even recognize it first. I mean, everyone knows what self-centeredness is to some degree. It doesn't, I mean, even without hearing about attachment, etc., we kind of are able to recognize self-centeredness in ourselves and also in others. And then it doesn't take much time to explain it how, just like explain it from a Buddhist point of view, explaining attachment, etc. It's not difficult. It's not that hard to understand. So once we understand it, which is not that difficult, we can pretty much quickly start to work on it, make a difference. So if we're told this is self-centered, this is the root, well, let's get at the root. Whereas with regard to the misapprehension of reality, it requires more explanation. It's much harder to understand. And so to make a difference in terms of that, even if you understand it, it's difficult. It's really difficult. So for the time being, let's focus more on our self-centeredness. And even with our understanding of emptiness, affect our self-centeredness. I don't think we may undermine our self-centeredness to a certain degree, but it's not like not self-centeredness, our ignorance, our grasping at inherent existence, we may undermine it to a certain degree, but it's not like it gets weaker. It's there. It's there as it always was. But self-centeredness we can reduce. So therefore, talking more or including self-centeredness, attachment in the root causes can, for some people, be helpful to deal with it right now. Okay, of course, also to not ignore ignorance, etc., and to continue with our understanding of emptiness, but not to give up on, in the meantime, working on self-centeredness, right? I mean, in a way that is not just concerned with emptiness, but to also be mindful of it and not allow for it to run wild, etc. Okay, so Shmuel, does that answer that first question? Somehow you disappeared from here. Does it answer that first question? You can just nod or...
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I guess that it is an answer.
Okay. Think about it again if you've come back with another. Yeah. All right. Then the next question, it says, you said that liberated beings, arhats, of the fundamental vehicle, are not self-centered in the strictest sense of the term. Yeah, so no attachment. However, if the definition of self-centeredness is considering oneself to be more important than others, okay, even leaving out as attachment, let's say that was the definition, then the fundamental vehicle arhats are self-centered because they fit the definition. Okay, they fit the definition because they consider, nice how he puts it in a kind of debate language, they fit the definition because they consider their own liberation to be more important than the liberation of others. And in this sense, they consider themselves to be more important than others. Okay, let's see. Well, I can only, of course, share with you my own opinion on that, but I would disagree. First of all, that they consider themselves to be more important. Why? Because I don't believe that they consider their own liberation to be more important than the liberation of others, just because they work only towards their own liberation. My understanding is that there's more than one reason for followers of, or practitioners of the fundamental vehicle, in other words, practitioners who mainly focus on self-liberation. There's different reasons for why they only focus on that. I see two main reasons. One reason is that they don't accept it is possible to liberate all sentient beings, to become enlightened, and to liberate all sentient beings. I don't think they consider that to be possible. And in some of the traditions, it's not seen as an option. In some of the traditions of the fundamental vehicle, they talk about the enlightenment of some beings. It's possible for some, but not possible for everyone. There's only very few Buddhas. Buddha Shakyamuni being very much an exception, and everyone else can become self-liberated. So there's that assertion. But there's also the assertion by others, well, yes, a lot of people can become Buddhas, but I just can't. I lack the ability. I can't do it. I can't do it. So even if they were to assert that enlightenment is possible and that everyone can become enlightened, they may feel very strongly, I just can't. For the time being, I just can't do it. So either it's about losing my determination to practice a tool, or focus on self-liberation. So an arhat, or someone who's pretty close to it, I don't think they have in any sense think that others' liberation, that their liberation is more important. I think it's more of a sense, that's all I can do. But of course, as we all know, once they become arhats, they're basically, well, moving towards enlightenment, because they will eventually become enlightened. It is just a temporary kind of state that they focus on more versus enlightenment, so their own liberation. But sooner or later, they're going to race towards liberation, towards enlightenment. So once they realize they can become fully enlightened, it's pretty quick, actually. But they can stay in that state of being self-liberated. They probably stay in that state for quite some time. And that is where, from a point of view of the universal vehicle, it's kind of like a detour, because you remain in that state. It's just the nature of the mind that an arhat will remain in that blissful state of liberation for some time before they arise from that meditative equipoise to then pretty much raise towards enlightenment. But my point is here, it's not because they're self-centered. Before they become self-liberated, their focus is mainly on self-liberation because they don't consider that to be a possibility for themselves. This is how I understand it. So if they could, their in love and compassion for others is incredible. It's definitely incredible. And if they could somehow pass out this magic pill for everyone to become liberated by just taking this pill, they'll be the first one to say, give it to me, I'll pass it on. Right? Well, not the first one, the Bodhisattvas will be with them. But the point is that they don't lack in love and compassion in the sense of just wanting for all sentient beings to be happy and free from suffering. That kind of compassion they don't lack in. But this kind of like, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to, take on personal responsibility, even if it means I be the last person to be liberated and enlightened. Of course, that is not realistically possible to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment without first becoming enlightened. But the determination of a bodhisattva is such that even if I'd be the last, I'd do it to lead everyone to enlightenment, and I'd be the last. That not being realistic, but still that's the motivation. So someone on the fundamental vehicle doesn't have that determination yet, but not out of a lack of love and compassion for others. And once they become self-liberated, no attachment, no self-centeredness. But that's just how the mind works. They're going to remain in that meditative equipoise, depending on many different other factors. They remain in that meditative equipoise for some time before they enter the Mahayana path, and then very quickly become enlightened. So, Shmuel, does that answer your second question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. You're welcome. All right. So then let's start with the Lamrim, doing some Lamrim. Oh, here we're back to the text. Where's the Lamrim? Lamrim. Here. So we started with the second method of generating bodhicitta. We've already gone into great detail on this method. Well, here it's mentioned secondly, but cultivating bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging self and others, which is easier for us at this point in time, just simply because we have a harder time with reincarnation. But
sorry, this is for our homework, yeah?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Yes, so this is for your homework, exactly. Lamrim. So the Lamrim to do, if you want to do a practice on a daily basis, so this is what I want you to do. Consider the possibility that you've lived before. At least be open to it. Be open to it. Okay, so I've gone through the reasonings last time. If you want to go through them again, maybe come up with your own. So there's some definitely support. There's supporting reasoning, or maybe you take some of the research that has been done at, what was the university? At Virginia University. If you just Google it, there's been some research on children who remember past lives. So it's a lot of material you can find, and give it some thought, and then I'll just allow for that possibility, and therefore allow the possibility that we've lived in so many different ways before. We've lived as humans, as animals, in any type of form of existence before. And every sentient being has at some point to us, extremely close to us. Everyone. So think of the person who's closest to you right now, who you love most, who you find has been the kindest to you so far. And think that logically, if we've lived before, then there's no existence we haven't gone through, because there cannot be a first rebirth or a first life. We've existed since beginning of time, which means everyone has at some point been so close to us. And really go through it, really feel it, not just intellectually. Allow for yourself to be moved on an emotional level. Everyone, you just don't remember. And not just once, endless times. So the person you can think of right now, who you feel the closest to, everyone has been as close as that, and maybe even closer. Probably even closer, because there's always room for improvement or room for feeling closer to someone. So just do it. just go through it and try to think. Of course, if reincarnation makes sense to some degree, if it's just a little bit, allow for it to allow for that meditation. And then the wish to repay that kindness. So remember that kindness, of course. Remember, well, it's not remembering. You can't remember something that you have no memory of. I mean, we're just here, as I said last time, the word remember in Tibetan, temba, here can also be meant in like become aware of. Give it some thought. Give it some thought that give some thought to the fact that sentient beings, every sentient being at some point has been so kind to us. So kind, as our mother or father. I don't even mention mothers and fathers, though we should really, usually if I have more time, I let people through just these 9 months of our mother carrying us around, and then birth and all these hardships our mothers went through for our own sake. Of course, I made mistakes, but usually we just focus on the mistakes and never consider the good stuff. Everything they did wrong, all our problems. Oh yeah, they did this wrong and that wrong. That's why I have this problem and that problem. But how much time do we spend with, well, they did this right, and so now I have this good quality, and this is from my parents. Somehow it's like my problems come from my parents and my good qualities are my own, from my own, right? We have a kind of a cheeky way of dealing with this. But if I have more time, I do this. I don't have that much time. So don't think, if it's difficult with your mother, take anyone and think that if I've lived before, everyone has been so close and they've at some point been so kind to me. Endless lifetimes, endless possibilities. So kind to me. Of course, we could do it the other way around. They've been my worst enemy. Yeah, but that's just harmful. It's just going to harm us. So why would we do that? What is really beneficial to do this for our own mind? Very, very beneficial. So wishing to remembering that kindness and wishing to reciprocate or to repay that kindness. Everyone at some point has been so close to me, I just don't remember. So what can I do for all of them now? And so to come to that point, I want to do something. I have to do something. I really have to make this right. They've been so kind to me. Now I need to do something. I have the opportunity. I mean, yeah, life sucks and we have a lot of problems, but we have the opportunity, right? We've met the Dharma. We've met means and methods to transform our mind. Well, let's utilize them. We have certain freedoms. We have certain opportunities. Let's not waste them. And work towards repaying that kindness. So, but first of all, before we actually focus on repaying that kindness by wishing to become enlightened, and of course working towards that, deepening that feeling of closeness by heartwarming love, right? So there's the wish to reciprocate that kindness, but we also need that affection, that deep affection towards other sentient beings. And then the next step is great compassion. That is already the aspiration, which then leads to the determination to protect sentient beings from suffering and their causes, from suffering and its causes. All right. So here the last 3, although some of the terminology is different. Affectionate love, that's what I call it. Heartwarming love is what Thupten Tröden calls it here. Yungechamba. Yung actually means attractive, but attractive is this is how it's usually used, like your heart is drawn towards someone, but yeah, so you have affection towards them, there's a heartwarming love towards them. That's the kind of love that I described as part of our initial meditation, this feeling of closeness and affection and seeing sentient beings as lovable, seeing them as endearing. But then more important, then based on that, great compassion, which is not just the wish for them to be free from suffering, but the wish to do something, to be able to contribute to their liberation from suffering. And then, of course, the great determination and the altruistic intention, which is bodhicitta itself, So the terminology is slightly different. It's a determination. Yeah, it's a kind of determination. In Tibetan, it says basically the altruistic, the special altruistic attitude. That's the Tibetan terminology here for great determination. And then you have Bodhicitta itself. So please try and do this meditation if you're interested in following the Lamrim at the same time. And then let's go back to the text. And what I do every time is just to remind you of the points we went through before. I want to do this because I try to mention other aspects every time, and I want to show that although this is so difficult and so advanced, this text, well, we can all practice this. We don't have to be fully advanced. We can all benefit from this because these practices, I mean, any practice, just take compassion. We can all practice compassion. Do we practice the type of compassion that a bodhisattva has? No, it's a different type. It's stronger, it's much more effective, but we do what we can on the level that we're on. So we start where we are. And nothing in here can be said to be too advanced. Nothing. This is the thing. Any kind of Dharma instruction, that's so beautiful about the Dharma, has instructions that on a certain level, as a beginner, it's beneficial. As an intermediate, like on an intermediate level, it's beneficial. And even on a highly advanced level, it is beneficial. Even a high bodhisattva needs to still meditate on death and impermanence. Right? A Buddha doesn't need to do this any longer, but for anyone still practicing, everything is relevant at all times. Okay, so having said this, let's go to the text, therefore. So we start off with homage to compassion. Makes perfect sense that we have a certain respect, but also a feeling of joy when we just think of compassion. Right, so here homage in the sense of not like stiff homage, like compassion over there, but more like I'm so glad you're there. I'm glad there is compassion. And then presenting the greatness of the author in order to demonstrate. So understanding that this author, I mean, it always makes the difference if we know the words were spoken someone who's truly qualified. So to know this person is part of this unbroken lineage. They came from Sölingpa, they were passed on, they came to this master, and he's not just talking from the mouth. This is someone who's actually practiced this. So if this person could practice it, I can do it too. Then presenting the greatness of these teachings, well, the first two lines tell us, let's not forget, this is all about working with this self-attachment, this sense of my happiness being more important, my family, my friends, all this. So this attachment, this self-centeredness that we all have a problem with, it's one of the roots of all our trouble. Well, this text helps us to at least lessen it and find more happiness. It's really saying more happiness, less self-centeredness, best way. So if you want to be more happy, buying more stuff, having more friends, having more this, that, no. This will give you a short-term satisfaction, yes, no doubt. But for long-term happiness, the only way is to reduce self-centeredness. But it's difficult, especially at this day and age. So at these 5G generations, let's face it, I mean, we really live at a difficult time when it comes to spiritual development. That's true. I mean, the environment, the materialism, the distractions, the disruptions, we're so disrupted. We're so, what is the word for it? We're so distracted. So we're not really into going into a cave and meditate. They don't have internet in caves. How are we gonna, right? So it's like, it's really hard to practice in the kind of traditional way. So there are lots of course, conflicts all around us. The food is polluted. The sea is polluted. I mean, we live in a time of a lot of degenerations. But the good news is that we can transform these troubles into our practice. So instead of feeling desperate and thinking, oh, I should just leave, I should not practice or anything, I'll just wait until these degenerations may maybe be gone one day, instead wait for another Buddha or so. No. We can totally use all trouble. That's the beauty of it. And this kind of text is a text that teaches us how to do so. All right. So then it goes on. First, we need to train at the preliminaries. Well, yeah, we've heard impermanence, etc., death, impermanence. Yes, everything that is part of the Lamrim, especially the first part, the section for a person, the practices come to a person of kind of initial spiritual aspiration. Well, these practices we have to do, remembering precious rebirth, precious human rebirth, etc. Okay, and then what is the main practice? Conventional bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta. Those are the main practices. Now, of course, they're very advanced, and no one is saying, okay, if you want to practice this text, just generate bodhicitta. Otherwise, don't continue even being bothered by this text. No. We do what we can. Okay, so conventional bodhicitta is bodhicitta itself, conventional awakening mind, or what we usually call bodhicitta. So let's practice that. Banish all blames to the single source. Well, self-centeredness. That should be at the forefront. Let's watch our own self-centeredness. Are we allowing it to run wild, or are we watching it? At the very least, watch it and kind of keep it controlled to some degree. Okay, so that's the main source. And again, it's a bit like, if there's certain foods that really harm you. I mean, if you have an allergy to peanuts, you may love peanuts to bits, but you're still not going to eat it. You stay away. You stay away even from the food that was produced in a peanut producing factory, even though it doesn't have peanuts in them. The point is we understand it's harmful and we avoid it. Well, that attitude we need to also develop. We need to avoid it as if we had a deadly allergy to self-centeredness, right? Okay, so banish all blames. And yes, there are other factors that are responsible for our trouble. It's true. And it's also the self-centeredness of others, that as well. But our own self-centeredness is responsible mainly for our own trouble. And so it's very liberating, because that's the one thing I can control. I can control self-centeredness. I can't control my neighbor's self-centeredness. I can give some advice, yes, but I can't control it. I can control the one thing to be really blamed. Wow. That's very empowering. And also, secondly, we should contemplate other sentient beings' kindness. Now, I've said a few things about that, but also just the fact that sentient beings give us the opportunity to love them, to have compassion for them. They give us this opportunity, and with that, we can overcome our self-centeredness and we can find love, lasting happiness. So just the fact that they exist, and even more so, they're obnoxious, they're hard to love. And that kind of love is even more effective if we can actually generate love and understanding, connect with sentient beings, not on that superficial level of, all their negative actions, their hatred, whatever they do, but on a deeper level, going deeper from the point of view of their mind, from their what is underneath their delusions, their afflictions that govern their actions. If we can do that, well, then that love is much more forceful and a much greater antidote to the single source to be blamed. So without sentient beings, we couldn't have that love and compassion. So just kindness from that point of view, kindness in terms of giving us the opportunity to be patient, etc. And you shouldn't go through this just on an intellectual level, really on an emotional level. Like, really think about it. The more love you have, the better your qualities. The more resilient you are, the more self-confident you are, the more strength you have, the more healthy you are physically and mentally. I mean, it's totally worth it. Where can you find any kind of superfood that gives you these qualities? Impossible, right? Okay, so therefore contemplate the kindness of sentient beings in that way, and then train in something that is actually pretty simple. We just need to remember to do it, because giving and taking, that kind of meditation, is placed on the breath, and we breathe all the time. So we can do that. But here, what is very important is to focus on the three objects: people we like, people we don't like, and people we don't care about. The three poisons in our mental continuum, because of that attachment to some, hatred towards others or aversion towards others, and then ignorance towards the rest. But also focus on them, on these sentient beings, that they also have that sense of, I like this person, I don't like that, I don't care about the rest. Focus on the fact that they're governed by the three poisons, and then generate the three roots of virtue. May they be free from those. May they be free from those. So a lot of our practice, may other sentient beings be free from suffering, is about may they be free from these three roots, right? These three roots of, the three roots, which are the three poisons here, which are, sorry, I misspoke before. So the three roots here are, here again, different ways of, or the three poisons, not even calling them roots. So ignorance, aversion, and attachment. Wanting sentient beings to be free from those three, the three sentient beings, the three categories that we ourselves are involved in, or that we ourselves create in our mind, that other sentient beings create in their mind, the three poisons that we create in our mind, that other sentient beings create in their mind, and then for us to generate or to develop the three roots of virtue by wishing for sentient beings to be free from the three poisons. Okay, that was really complicated. So basically, our focus should be sentient beings, the way we divide them into these three categories, the three poisons, being aware of them, etc., and then wishing for all sentient beings to be free from these three poisons. Okay, so this should be our one of the aspirations, one of the prayers we make. May they be free from those, and in that way we basically indirectly wish them to be free from suffering, because if they don't have the causes for suffering, well, they in the future won't experience suffering once they have overcome these afflictions. And the instructions in the meantime, while we're not specifically focusing on that, is in short to be mindful of this practice in all actions by training ourselves through words. Now, here it's really just training ourselves through slogans, some kind of mantra, like a mantra. And that's very interesting that Chekawa mentions this, because in modern psychology, this is seen as one of the tools towards training our mind. It's really beautiful. And that's why this is a good time to remind ourselves that Buddhism is really a type of psychology. It's a type of mental science, in a sense, not science maybe in the traditional Western way, where you need something material, something physical to really understand it. Here we have something that, well, it's the mind, so you can't see it, etc. But science in the sense that it's all about recognizing the mind, working with it, analyzing it, of course, and then make some changes to our problems. So it's some kind of medicinal, almost like, well, medicinal in terms of the mind, recognizing the mind, understanding its workings, and then healing the mind, basically healing it from these unwanted experiences, which are sufferings. So to do so, in modern psychology, you find these instructions in a similar way. Use slogans, right? So to promote, for instance, positive thinking. So short, simple phrases that we can repeat to ourselves to reinforce positive beliefs and attitudes. So this is similar here. Here we focus on our love and compassion, well, for ourselves, but also for other sentient beings. the sincere wish for other sentient beings to be happy, that, of course, and I've said it so many times, doesn't mean you condone their action, doesn't mean you do not stop them from what they're doing to harm themselves and others. I'm not saying that, but in our hearts of hearts, other sentient beings, their well-being is as important to us as that of ourselves, ideally, right? And so we have to practice this. We have to grow familiar with this. And through these slogans, so may all sentient beings find happiness. May all sentient beings be free from the 3 poisons. May all sentient beings find love in their heart. So it's got this incredible power by repeating these slogans. So modern psychology has found doing so. And here they don't use those slogans. There's different slogans, usually more concerned with one's own trouble, but it works the same way. They have found that this is, it replaces, and here I'm using modern psychology, like the language of modern psychology, it replaces our negative self-talk with positive self-talk. So here focusing on ourselves, but also on others, on other sentient beings. Of course, we include ourselves. We're, instead of beating ourselves up, we're not being able to do this, that, and the other, to have sincere love and compassion for ourselves, but also for others, recognizing that the differences between us are outweighed by what is similar, what we share as sentient beings. So to repeat these slogans, and they're so helpful because they provide us with the right kind of motivation, create a greater sense of purpose and direction, and they support mindfulness. They help us to be more mindful, to stay focused on our values and on our goals. So here I'm actually quoting, I've got like an article here in front of me, supporting the method of using these slogans according to modern psychology. Well, it's the same here. It applies to this text, or it applies to what is said here as well through slogans. And then it goes on to say, when stability is attained, teach the secret. So to also, once we have some stability, to of course focus on emptiness. So important. Understand that all phenomena are like dreams, to understand that our mind, the mind that focuses on the fact that phenomena appear in a way in which they don't exist, that even the mind that focuses on that doesn't exist the way it appears, it lacks inherent existence. And even so this being the remedy, and even the mind that at some point realizes how all phenomena really exist, the experiencing mind, that direct ultimate awakening mind, as it's called, well, even that doesn't exist inherently. Buddha himself, herself, doesn't exist inherently, and so forth. So in that way, to remind ourselves of the illusions, be like a conjurer of illusion, be like someone who creates illusions, well, create them in the sense of now the understanding that they're just like illusions, everything. Okay. And then it goes on to say, take adverse conditions into the path. Let's welcome them. Let's not push them away and have a sense, oh, I can't practice with all these adverse conditions. No, you can practice because of these adverse conditions. So to welcome them and to utilize them, to apply them into your meditation. Well, something happened, there's anger, great opportunity to practice patience. Something happened and there's aversion, great, wonderful opportunity to practice love and compassion. Anything can be used. And the problems, the adverse conditions, problems are much more effective because it keeps us on our toes. And they're just more effective when you apply them. That's why it's said that at a time when there's great trouble, a Dharma practitioner proceeds much faster. Much faster. So it's said that it's harder to practice the Dharma now versus the time when the Buddha was around. But if a person practices now at these difficult times with the same effort as a person with the same effort like someone at the time of the Buddha, the person now becomes enlightened faster. right? That's good news. Very good news. It's faster. Or liberation, or whichever practice, it's always faster. So now what is in short the present? So taking adverse conditions, and of course everything else that comes will explain that third point again, the second point again, and so forth. It all kind of builds on top of each other. So going to the fourth point here of the 7 points, in short, how should we practice in one life? Well, here, by way of practicing what are called the 5 powers. Now, someone asked this question last time. We talk about the 5 powers. Is that the same? Like the 5 powers, if you, for instance, study a text called the Abhisamaya Alamkara, in the 4th chapter, you're introduced to what's called the 5 powers. Is that the same? Are these the same 5 powers? No, they're not. They're not the same kind of powers. Let me just find the text here. Just 1 second. Oh no, that's the wrong, because I've got my own notes, but unfortunately they're in German. Sorry. My commentary by Chichen Rinpoche. So this is the commentary I'm following, as I said before. Just a sec, I'm just opening the file. All right. So the 7 points. Okay. What are the 5? Not the 7, the 5 points. Yeah, those are the 5 powers. Just a sec. Yeah, here they are. So the 5 points. You have 5 points we should practice while we're alive. I talked about them last time. I'm just going to go through them again. One is the intention, but it's like a propelling intention. I talked about it before. It's a special way in which we can set our mind. So this is an ability we all have. It's that ability that allows us to, well, wake up in the morning. If you need to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and we don't have an alarm clock, you set your mind and you actually wake up at 3 o'clock. So we can use this ability of the mind very effectively in our Dharma practice. So the stronger that determination, I'm going to work on that self-centeredness, the more effective you be in that endeavor. So it's all about setting that mind. Goals like, I will do this, I will work on this, I will work harder. It's just that keeps you on the path, definitely initially, and that grows stronger as you continue. Then there's the power of familiarity. Like I say, it's through familiarity, setting our mind again and again. Well, the sky's the limit. I can do this. There's nothing that can keep me. Okay, there's a challenge. There are obnoxious people. Bring them on. I'm going to, seek their presence to have the opportunity to practice harder. Okay. So therefore, for us, this determination, that sense of, as it's called, like the propelling kind of intention, then there's familiarity to do this again and again and again, to engage in that kind of intention again and again leads to familiarity. Then there's the power of the healings, the wholesome, or the virtuous semen, or not semen, seat, the virtuous seat, which is basically the wish to, or the seat in the sense of like accumulating virtue. So to accumulate, to take any opportunity to engage in virtuous actions, in particular, to engage in the practice of bodhicitta. So that is the power of the positive seat, I should call it the positive seat. And then there's the power of remorse, to also be aware of actions we've done in the past and we continue to do, and have a sense of, no, that was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. No, I'm sorry. That's it. Not guilt, just I'm sorry. And the power of aspiration, that if right now I cannot do this, well, may I be able to do it? May I be able to do it in the future? And we again set our mind. It's like a prayer, but it's more like a prayer towards our own mind, if you like. Of course, also towards other beings. Please help me. Other great beings help me in my endeavor, but also towards your own mind, basically. So to set the mind in the right direction. Now, these are important throughout our life, but they're also important at the time of death. So in the Buddhist scriptures, you find certain stages in our life, and there's a way in which you divide this life. You talk about this life by way of saying, well, first you're born, then there's this entire life, and then there's death and the pardo. You divide your entire existence into 4 stages. The moment of conception, because that's kind of important. That determines where you're going to spend the next, I don't know, maybe 80 years. And then the next stage is your whole life. And then there's death. It's kind of like your whole life and death. It's like 2 different stages. It seems like there need to be a little bit more, but I understand where that comes from because, well, the whole life, of course, is important, but it should all be a preparation also for death. Because that then again determines where we're going to be for the next, I don't know, maybe a day if we're born as a little fly that only lives for a day, or maybe the next thousands of years if we're reborn in certain lower realms where you may actually remain for a really long time. Or as humans, maybe remain for 80 years or what have you. So the point here is that we need these 8 powers also for not 8 powers, sorry, 5 powers. There are also 5 powers for the time of death. Now here the Tibetan word is transference. Transference here in the sense of transference of consciousness. So that's what happens at the time of death. Our consciousness is transferred to a new existence. And there is a certain practice, it's called po. This is not po in the traditional sense, but it's good to know about it. There is this practice where it's called the transference of consciousness, or po. It's actually one of the 5 yogas of Naropa, very advanced tantric practice, where either you do it yourself, you're trying for your consciousness, you're making an effort for the consciousness at the time of death to leave through the top of your head. And for a practitioner who's effective, they say there's a little hole at the crown of your head, the vertex, I think it's called, where your consciousness leaves, and you can actually check whether a hole was created by this practice, or you have a lama who does it for you. But some would say the most effective practice of transferring your consciousness is to engage in the 5 powers at the time of death. So first, here, the order is slightly different. It's the positive seat. So the positive seat at the time of death is to at least mentally give away all your possessions. When you're about to die, mentally think, I'm giving all my possessions to Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to my teacher. Of course, you may still, it's not discouraged. No one is discouraging to actually give them to your children to pass them on, but you may give some of it to institutions that are beneficial to others, maybe to, I don't know, monasteries, nunneries who can utilize them in a positive way, or at least mentally do so. That's a very powerful way to overcome attachment. And then the next is the power of the positive seat. No, sorry, not the positive seat, the power of the propelling intention. Propelling intention here to pay a special attention to, well, your intention should be focused to such a degree that you specifically focus on the absence of attachment towards your body. So the first one focuses on focuses on overcoming attachment towards your possessions, giving them, well, at least mentally giving them to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, at least mentally doing that. So you've already let go of your possessions. The second is the propelling intention, where you propel your mind in such a way that you're determined, I'm not going to have attachment towards this body. I'm just going to give up this body. It's going to desert me at some point. I'm going to leave this behind. So in preparation for your death, to do your utmost to overcome attachment towards this body. Then the power of remorse, to spend some time, of course, okay, I've made a mistake. It's because of my afflictions. I made mistakes in the past. I regret them. Not with guilt, but with very rational kind of remorse or regret as a powerful antidote towards the afflictions. So out of the afflictions, out of anger, aversion, I've done things I'm not proud of. I'm sincerely sorry. That's the third power here. Then the power of aspiration. May I be reborn in a state which enables me to continue to practice bodhicitta. May I have an existence, and another rebirth such that I will not be separated from my practice of bodhicitta. So very beautiful, that kind of aspiration. You ask others to help you to do so in the form of a prayer, but also towards yourself. May I be able, because it's your mind. In the end, we ourselves control our own mind. And of course, the power of familiarity. So you continuously engage in that, so that we're actually able, that this becomes, just having that aspiration one time it's not enough, to do it again and again and again. So to prepare for the future. So you see, the first of the 5 powers helps you to overcome attachment towards your possessions, which you need to leave behind. Attachment towards your body, which you need to leave behind. Then deal with the one thing we take with us, which is karma. Remorse for negative actions already has a powerful effect on purifying, or at least lessening the effect of these actions. Then number 4 and number 5, the future. Prepare for the future. An existence where you can continue to practice mainly bodhicitta, which if you engage in the practices of the universal vehicle, supports that. Even though you don't have bodhicitta yet, doesn't matter. You're preparing your mind, you're practicing towards it, because all the practices are directed in that way. And then, of course, familiarity. Hopefully, we've already familiarized ourselves through our lives with this, but also at the time of death, there's still a lot we can do. If we are lucky, we have a slow death. Okay. All right. So these are the 5 powers. You see, in one lifetime, all our practices can be brought together in this way. So that's it for today. I'm sorry, it was really just going through everything we've done so far, going over it again. But, well, Dharma practice and Dharma teachings are all about repetition. And every time something else comes up, and of course, the point is to hopefully understand every time something different, and practice then, of course, again, through repetition. Repetition is so much part of our practice. And of course, most important is, besides this class, to listen to the teachings of a qualified master. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama taught this text. Oh no, he didn't teach the text. He was ill, but someone else taught the text. He was a highly advanced master. And just recently, His Holiness gave some teachings, and in the future to attend these teachings. And even though His Holiness is saying oftentimes the same thing, but listen with your heart. And if you listen more on an emotional level, something else happens every time. It's not like it gets boring or anything. It affects you in a very different way. Okay. Anyway, next time I'll continue with what comes afterwards. So this was more of a repetition here, or going through what we've done so far. So let's now to complete this class, let's do a meditation on what we've done, parts of at least of what we've done so far. So since we started off with death, let's focus on the last 5 powers by focusing on our own death, okay, in preparation for our own death. But of course, as we usually do, we start with some breathing meditation. Now take a moment and visualize you're about to die. Which is not unrealistic. Since death is certain. So sooner or later, that time will come. So let's start with the power of the positive seat. And take a moment to focus on all your physical possessions, everything you own. Your bank account, your house or apartment, your car, your furniture, your books, your clothes, food in your fridge. And now give it at least mentally, or visualize you're physically giving it to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. If you have a Lama, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or maybe Kyabje Jadu Rinpoche, and so forth, offer it to them. Let it go. But the knowledge that your possessions may support other practitioners, helping them to transform their mind, and so forth. And then generate the second power. The propelling intention. It's a kind of determination to not be overwhelmed by your attachment to the body, which is stronger than the attachment to our possessions, our material possessions. So to be determined not to hold on to the body. It's going to desert us. So let's let go of our attachment towards our flesh and blood. Then third is the power of remorse. So to focus on the mistakes we've made due to our afflictions. So without exaggerated feelings of guilt, but rather balanced regret or remorse. Having a sense, if I could turn back time, I'd do it differently. And a sense of, I'm sorry for my mistakes. Then fourth is the power of aspiration. So to aspire towards not being separated from the practice Bodhicitta, love and compassion. So aspiration in the sense of setting our own mind towards continuing our practice. By thinking, may I be able to have a rebirth with all the freedoms and opportunities that enable me to continue my practice. May I never be separated from qualified lamas, so that they continue to guide me through their presence and their teachings. So generate that type of aspiration in your own mind. Thinking, I'm going to die soon. So I need to prepare for the future right now. And then lastly, we need to engage in the power of familiarity. So to basically continuously work towards the other powers, to become familiar with them. Continuously let go of our possessions, of our body, which includes, of course, our loved ones. To let go of our attachment towards them as well. To generate regret for our mistakes caused by the afflictions. And the sincere aspiration, positive rebirth, that enables us to continue our practice of the mind of enlightenment. The last being especially important. So to conclude this short meditation, let's think that we'll keep these five close to us. To at least mentally engage in that practice. To effectively prepare for our own death whenever it may come. Seeing it as the end of just one aspect and as the opportunity for something new. And then lastly, let's dedicate whatever positive potential we've accumulated together. Let's best dedicate it towards our own development of Bodhicitta and our own enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that's also dedicated towards the long life of our great masters like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Kyabche Jadra Rinpoche, and all the other great lamas. May they have extremely long and healthy life, that they can continue to guide us. And may all our virtue, all our positive potential help those around us, ordinary beings around us, right here and right now. May it become a cause for Pali Lubin to have a great rebirth, a great existence with all opportunities and freedoms. May she be happy and peaceful right now, wherever she is. And may our positive potential be a cause for sentient beings' resentment and hatred and dislike of each other to be replaced by understanding, tolerance, and love and compassion. Despite of what happened in the past. So with this in mind, let's recite the dedication prayers. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings, without exception, into that enlightened state. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chinrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll see you again this coming Monday. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you, Geshe.
Take care.
Friends.
Thank you, Dolly.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.